Our Nation Sports Show. And so it begins. Tonight, it is the first episode of our Nation Sports Show for the year 2025. Tonight, we analyze the finale of the NFL's regular season for 2024. Tonight, we break down Week 18. Heading into Week 18, there were two playoff spots up for grabs. Both wild card spots, both in the NFC and the AFC respectively. Tonight, we also break down the latest breaking news in the NFL that broke during the NFL's regular season finale on Sunday after one full season as the New England Patriots head coach, Gerard Mayo, has been fired. And tonight, we break down the latest firings that took place on Black Monday. Tonight, we also crown our 2024 Prediction Battles champion. All season long, we look forward to making our predictions for every single game taking place during the NFL's regular season. We look forward to doing this once again when the 2025-26 regular season rolls around next September. And tonight, we begin our coverage. We begin our previews. The NFL's real tournament is about to begin on January the 11th. The NFL playoffs gets underway from the wild card round all the way to Super Bowl 59 in the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. Our Nation Sports Show has you covered throughout the entire NFL postseason. Will the Kansas City Chiefs be the first team in NFL history to three-peat as Super Bowl champions? Or will there be a new king ascending to the top of the NFL mountain? It's showtime.
Good up to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show.
For the first time in 2025, we are live for our Nation Sports Show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first show of the brand new year of 2025. I am your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. Unfortunately, due to not feeling well and under the weather, Ezra is not here this week, and hopefully he'll be back with us next week. And before I get to my co-host joining me right now, we got to plug the social media platforms. Up first on Twitter at @ON_Sports Show and Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, or where we are live right now, YouTube.com/Nation Sports Show, for a brand spanking new year of doing what we do best. And that is what we also love doing as well. And that is covering the world of sports. And also, you can follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, and where they are live on most Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific at YouTube.com/The Nation's Corner, where the guys and gal talk all things professional wrestling. And speaking of professional wrestling, what a historic night of professional wrestling it was last night, as the WWE made its debut on the streaming platform known as Netflix. And what a night it was. And lots of surprises. The Undertaker showing up, giving the rub to Rhea Ripley. That was cool. Of course, John Cena's farewell tour began last night, I should say. Roman is now officially again the undisputed tribal chief. CM Punk beat Seth Rollins, and oh boy, to me this is far from over. The Rock kicked off the show last night. Really, really cool stuff last night. What they did overall, minus the Hulk Hogan. And if the Iron Sheik was here, he'll be very proud because fuck the Hulk Hogan. He says shit. Anyways, if the Iron Sheik was here, he would be laughing at the crowd last night that booed Hulk Hogan in the arena last night in Los Angeles. Like, it was hysterical to picture that in the back of my head. But the guys and gal will be recapping all things professional wrestling, but we are here to talk about the world of sports. And joining me right now, he is a very happy Washington Commanders football fan because his team is going to the playoffs. The playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? Sorry, Cowboys, you didn't win a game because to get to the playoffs. Anyways, he's an all-around good dude. He's a great guy. My brother from another mother, JT, Joey Thornton. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And I do want to point out saying that very happy is an understatement because I am overly freaking ecstatic right now.
As you should.
Overly
As you should be.
freaking ecstatic because this is our first trip to the playoffs since the COVID year 2020. And also, this is our first year that's technically, that we do technically have a name other than the football team that found its way into the playoffs. And of course, we're going to dive deep into the playoffs whenever we get going later on in the show. So we're going to give our full analysis on that. But until then, we got some Week 18 to talk about. We got some other stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's get to it, baby.
Yes, indeed. What an amazing time it is to be a sports fan because the NFL playoffs is about to begin. But before we get to our previews of that, we have to recap the final full weekend. Hard to believe we have now completed yet another year of covering the NFL on this show because every time we say this, every time the NFL rolls around in September, when the regular season gets underway, before you can even blink an eye, it's over. The season is over, just like that. And Week 18 was something because there was a few teams vying for 2 playoff spots in the wild card round. Heading into Week 18, you had the Cincinnati Bengals, the Miami Dolphins, and the Denver Broncos that were fighting, jockeying for position to claim that final wild card spot. And on the NFC side of things, you had the Buccaneers and the Falcons jockeying for playoff positions, trying to win the NFC South because that division was so wacky all year long. I mean, I guess we'll start with Saturday because first off, the Baltimore Ravens took care of business by dispatching the Cleveland Browns 35-10 in a game that was completely lopsided. I mean, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry once again showed why they are one of the most deadliest combos in NFL history of today. Because Derrick Henry yet again had another monster game. Lamar Jackson put his exclamation points on, he put his mark on the game, making a statement that he should be a back-to-back MVP winner. And gotta give a lot of credit, to Baltimore because, they played a great game. Heading into that game, Joey, like they couldn't let up because, they were thinking if the Steelers would have shown up, and won their game, then Pittsburgh would have gotten the division.
But Baltimore came into their building and they took care of business.
Oh yeah, they definitely did. I mean, Baltimore knew what they had to do. They knew they had to shake off the earlier loss to Cleveland, which still kind of is blindsiding when you think about it. But they knew they had to shake that off, and they knew that they just had to win this game regardless of what Pittsburgh did against Cincinnati. They knew they knew they had to go into this game and play the best possible football that they could in order to guide them to yet another AFC North title. And that's what Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry did.
And the
As well
defense played great too. And they got a
as
pick
I'm about to
six
say,
early on in the game.
as well as that defense as well.
It's amazing. It is amazing how, Baltimore, even though their defense early on in the season was a little rocky at times because they were giving up a lot of yardages. That's why during one of our pick segments, when that Thursday night game was happening between Cincinnati and Baltimore, Baltimore, you know, Cincinnati gave them a run for their money in that game. Joe Burrow and company, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and company. I don't think, you know what? Scratch. I don't think T. Higgins was playing in that game. I think he was still out. But Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and company, they made that Ravens defense look really bad in that game. But Baltimore, ever since that Thursday night game against Cincinnati, which Baltimore survived, Cincinnati winning by 1. That was a crazy game. But the Ravens defense since then has rebounded and has played much better finishing out the season. And that is why they are the AFC North Division champs for another consecutive year, because for a fourth consecutive game, the Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Cincinnati Bengals in a wild game, to say the least. This game was just bonkers because at one point it looked like the Bengals were going to run away in this game and dominate Pittsburgh, and then Russell Wilson and company got back into the game. And then in the second half, it looked like Burrow was injured because he went down. It looked bad. And I'm like, oh boy, there goes their chance to even have a chance to get in, because if they would have lost to Pittsburgh, they would have been done on that day. They would have been eliminated. But Cincinnati, him and Burrow and Jamar Chase, they knew that if they wanted to have a shot at getting in, they were going to have to show up, and they did. Jamar Chase had another long touchdown in this game. I mean, he played great. Defense made plays when it had to. And also, Russell Wilson missed some wide open passes, but mainly George Pickens, or in this case, dropping balls left and right. George Pickens cannot catch a coal if his life is on the line. He's demanding the ball and is dropping it, literally.
I wonder if he was taking notes from that World Series game when Aaron Judge dropped that fly ball.
Well, I still think George Pickens' catching percentages are way better than Aaron Judge's batting average. I'm just saying. Anyways.
Oof.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. But yeah, the Steelers, they are limping into the playoffs. And honestly, Joey, they are fortunate that they're entering the playoffs, because Cincinnati could have gotten in if they would have beaten Pittsburgh the first time, or they could have gotten in if they would have won against the Chargers in that wild game on Sunday Night Football, or, and this is going to linger all offseason long for Cincinnati, you should have beat the Patriots in week 1. That loss to New England in week 1 will haunt Cincinnati all offseason long. Because you know it, I know it, Kevin knows it, Ezra knows it, we all know that Cincinnati cannot afford another consecutive season where Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and company get out to a rocky, slow start.
I mean, there's not really much you can say. I mean, you pretty much hit the head right on the money.
Oh, yeah. And that leads me to Sunday. First in case in being the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins had their slim playoff chances going in. But Miami did not show up. And obviously you can't put injuries on making excuses. You trot out there who's on the football field and play the game. But not having Tua there, that really hurt them. And their defense was very bad in this game against the New York Jets. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, what? Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdowns in the final week of the NFL season when it doesn't mean nothing? What? He's back? Yeah, right. Too little too late, Mr. Rodgers.
He just knew he didn't have any pressure on him, and that's when he usually plays his best, is when there's no pressure on him whatsoever.
This is true. I mean, if this is his last game with the Jets, I guess what a good way to go out and move on to your next career path, maybe. But I don't think he's done. I don't think Rodgers is done in the NFL. I think he's going to play next year. But the Jets beat the Dolphins and eliminated them from playoff contingency. But here's the big one. The Denver Broncos punched their ticket. And mind you, Denver had the easiest shot at making it into the playoffs. Because if they would have won one more game, they controlled their destiny and they're in. If they would have beat Cincinnati last week, they would have gotten in. But this week, they let it be no doubt. They went at home and dismantled the Chiefs' backups in the second shutout of the 24 regular season, 38-0. This was no contest. This was a easy win for Denver. And got to give credit to Bo Nix. Got to give credit to Sean Payton. Got to give credit to this young Denver team. From coming out of the gates, slow as they were, of not producing results on the field. Bo Nix, who a lot of us were calling Mo Picks, because he was throwing a lot of interceptions early on in the year. But as the season trucked along, Bo Nix has gotten better week after week after week.
He honestly has, but then again, what can you expect from Carson Wentz being your quarterback and literally third and fourth string playing an entire NFL game? Not really much you can expect.
No.
And yes, I mean, a win over your conference rival is definitely a good thing. But it could also come back to bite you where the sun doesn't shine.
This is true.
Because yes, you did beat Kansas City. Yes, you found a way to get into the playoffs. But, guess who's going to be waiting on you in the playoffs, buddy? Especially with their game this Saturday. Guess who's going to be waiting on them?
The Buffalo Bills.
Counts.
The Buffalo Bills. And nice little trends.
Exactamundo, with Josh Allen having one of the best years of his NFL career.
And speaking of the Buffalo Bills, and nice transition, Joey, because the Buffalo Bills had nothing to play for. That's why they sat their starters during this game. Josh Allen did start for a series to continue that streak in the regular season. But they had nothing to play for. He played a series, got the hell out of there when he did. Josh Allen, all year long, you can make the rightful claim. Anybody can make the claim that Josh Allen is the MVP. I could sit in a room with NFL fans and talk about this till the cows come home. Who is the rightful winner of the MVP? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. No, it's Lamar Jackson. No, it's Josh Allen. Anybody has a rightful argument to stake their claims, to plant their flags, to who they think should win the MVP for 2024-25. Josh Allen if you ask me, probably is going to get it because of the things that he has done this year. Because let's be honest, the Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen, and that's it. The Baltimore Ravens have Mark Andrews, have Derrick Henry, have Zay Flowers. You know, they have playmakers on the offense. Buffalo does have some pretty nice pieces, but they're not star caliber players. Josh Allen is the true definition of an MVP, just like Patrick Mahomes is a true representation of the MVP. Because without Mahomes, without Allen, these teams do not go anywhere. And yes, even without Lamar Jackson, the Ravens don't go anywhere either. But Lamar has won it 2 times. Lamar Jackson has said it himself that he is not worried about the MVP. He is worried about winning the most important coveted prize in the NFL. That is the Super Bowl. Because him, Josh Allen, are chasing the ghosts of Patrick Mahomes. Because Patrick Mahomes already has won 3 Super Bowls. 3 Super Bowls. And they are chasing history, the Chiefs are, of being the first team in NFL history to three-peat as Super Bowl champions. And it's not going to be an easy task. Because, and I hate to say it already, before we get to the rest of these games, until somebody beats Patrick Mahomes when it matters the most, I will not bet against that man. Until you can prove to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Lamar Jackson can win a big game, that Josh Allen can finally get that monkey off his back and win a big game. Because I'm telling you, Joey, the last couple of seasons in the postseason, when it matters the most, when the chips are on the table, it's win or go home. We have seen the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens come up very small when it matters.
Yeah, we have. I mean, everybody is pretty much favoring Kansas City at this point, and everybody has a right to do so. But a lot of other fans can give their own opinions as well. And I know we're not talking into the playoffs yet, but I'm going to go in and give my opinion. And I'm going to make a wrestling reference with this one. I have a strong, gutsy feeling that this will be the year that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty rests in peace.
An Undertaker reference.
Indeed. But yes, this is the year that the Chiefs dynasty will be done.
Because as we all know, in sports, dynasties are hard to maintain. Success in the NFL is hard to measure. Because when you're chasing history, when you're chasing history and immortality, when it comes to the world of sports history, it is hard to claim those victories in the trenches, in big games.
Oh, it definitely is.
And segueing back into Sunday's games, the Buffalo Bills sat their starters against the Patriots. So they had nothing to play for. And the Patriots beat the Bills 23-16. And then, oh, by the way, afterwards, Gerard Mayo was shown the door. You're fired.
Yeah, that actually comes as a surprise to me because whenever Gerard Mayo was first hired by New England to replace the departed Bill Belichick, who's now coaching in college, still find that hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever Gerard Mayo was tabbed as the head coach, Robert Kraft himself said that Mayo was going to be Belichick's predecessor. He was going to be the guy who would lead New England to the promised land. But there's not really much a rookie coach can do with a team of young players, especially an inexperienced coach like Gerard Mayo. Now, I get it. Gerard Mayo is a top defensive guy because, for one thing, he was the linebacker for those New England Patriots Super Bowl teams whenever he played. So Gerard Mayo is definitely a defensive guy, and that's why he was on the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball whenever Bill Belichick was still the head coach. But in order to be a true head coach for an NFL team, you need to understand both the offensive and the defensive aspect at all times. You need to be on top of your game and prove to these naysayers and these haters, or you know what, not even naysayers or the haters, just go out there and prove to the fans of your franchise that you can do the impossible when given the golden opportunity. And unfortunately, that's just not something the Patriots were able to do this year.
No.
Because they had a bunch of holes, they had a bunch of injuries, and, well, they had their struggles.
They did.
I get it. And I get it. A lot of NFL teams have struggles on a certain basis. But it just seems like for New England, as well as the New York Jets, it just seemed to be constant, their struggles. I mean, before the Jets beat the Miami Dolphins on Sunday, they had lost, what was it, like 5-6 games in a row? And most of those losses came when they were leading late in the fourth quarter, but their defense just couldn't hold it. Now, if I were to put the Patriots and the Jets together, I would honestly say the Patriots would be the better team, but not by much. Because the Patriots, as I mentioned earlier, they had holes, they had struggles, and most importantly, they had injuries. And they could not say, oh, well, when a player goes down, it's always next man up. They couldn't do that because they could not find the playmakers that they needed to make in this season. And not to mention using Drake May at first, using Jacoby Brissett at first, then going back to Drake May, then going back to Brissett, then going back to Drake May. I mean, it was a flip-flop. I mean, if you really want to enjoy success, I get it. You're supposed to put the best player in that position on the field at all times. But when both quarterbacks tend to struggle, like Brissett and May did this year, there's not really much you can do about that.
This just came down 17 minutes ago or 18 minutes ago now. Adam Schefter just tweeted 18 minutes ago that the Dallas Cowboys, per ESPN sources, have denied anybody to interview head coach Mike McCarthy.
Ha! Wow.
This is laughable as hell. Jerry Jones wants full control. full control of this organization. What a complete disaster this organization continues to be. When other teams have just as much problems on their head coaching side, you're not going to let him interview for any vacancies? Give me a break. Even some of the horriblest franchises that haven't done nothing. The Jets have let former coach Rex Ryan interview. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, who Detroit, mind you, is going to be playoff bound and number one seeded for the first time in their illustrious franchise. Since their renaissance of what they've done the last 4 or 5 years. Their slow rise to where they are today. Ben Johnson is just as responsible for Detroit's success. Just because he might be the offensive coordinator of the Lions, he still deserves a shot at getting interviewed. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous by Jerry Jones. This is completely ridiculous. To deny any team of interviewing Mike McCarthy when there was news coming down that Chicago wanted to interview him, other teams wanted to interview him, let him get interviewed.
Well, it all goes back to what I said in the pre-show. Jerry Jones is a toxic, poisoned apple in an apple orchard.
Yep.
It all goes back to what I was saying. He already has McCarthy on a set contract, paying him so much amount of money to try to bring Dallas to the promised land, which has not been done in 30 years. So, by him retaining Coach Mike McCarthy, he not only secures another upcoming failure season for Dallas, he also protects the one thing that he fears the most. And that is opening his precious little checkbook. Because if Mike McCarthy were to leave Dallas, that would mean that Jerry Jones would have to open his checkbook to try to get the best possible coach to come coach so-called America's so-called team.
So you know what this means, Joey? This probably means that a extension is in the works for Mike McCarthy, which supposedly his contract expires next Tuesday when we're live for our second show of the year. So you mean to tell so you're telling me, Jerry Jones, that you're making these moves literally in the 11th hour, basically? Let's see, you had Dak's
let's say you had Dak's long-term deal that happened at the 11th hour. You had CD's record-breaking deal at the 11th hour. You're gonna have Mike McCarthy's contract at the 11th hour.
Okay, so let's play.
What's next? So what's next? You gonna do Micah Parsons the same way?
Right. Let's play devil's advocate real quick. So let's say when Mike McCarthy gets this extension with the Cowboys, what if CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons are no longer with this team in 2 to 3, 4 years? Because you cannot afford to keep these money-making, players, these people that want money, you cannot afford to keep these players for a long-term sustain. Because the only way you can do this is by these players taking a huge pay cut. A huge pay cut. That is the only way that Prescott, Lamb, and Parsons will stick around. That's the only way. Why do you think that Patrick Mahomes over the last, several years with that contract, he's taken a huge pay cut so they can bring in players, so
Yep.
they can make moves. That's what Tom Brady did all those years with the Patriots. He took a massive pay cut to bring in players. When you don't take massive pay cuts, you can't bring anybody in, Jerry. The idiot. Like, it's ridiculous.
And quite honestly, to add to that, and this is my last thought for those sorry freaking cow turds, for the night at least. Or except for when we go over that amazing game that happened on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, and CeeDee Lamb, those three right there have their own egos that is literally the size of planet Earth. No. Better yet, those three have egos the size of the entire Milky Way galaxy. Because they are so full of themselves. They think that, oh, well, I now have this record-breaking deal to be the quarterback of the future. Or, in CeeDee Lamb's sake, wow, I finally got paid. So now it's time to go out and prove that I'm not worth 2 cents of it. And if the same thing happens to Micah Parsons, those are probably going to be the only 3 high-profile players you're going to have on your roster. Because everybody else is going to be signing $100,000, $200,000 contracts, because the Cowboys will not have that cap space. And Jerry Jones, as long as he has been a team owner, he knows that he cannot use his own personal money to try to lure a player to join his organization. We've seen it be tried before, and it has not succeeded. So
Nope.
if Jerry Jones thinks that it's going to happen to him, he's got another thing coming. Because he is just as subject to all the NFL rules as all the other team owners. He is not above and beyond because he's America's most known sports team owner. No, that's not how it works, buddy. Try guiding your team to Super Bowls, much less, you know what? Forget about Super Bowls. Try to put your organization in NFC championship games year in and year out, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have a say. But for right now, sit down, shut your mouth, and tuck your precious checkbook into his own little personal bed, like you always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on during Sunday's Week 18 finale, and this game to this literal day and all off season long will stick with me because the one freaking time myself, you, Kevin picked the Carolina Panthers to win a game, they did. They beat the Atlanta Falcons in a shootout. I don't know what they did to Bryce Young in the last, several weeks, but whatever they did to factory reset his career, they've done a hell of a job. Because Bryce Young in the last several weeks has played some really good football, even though the Panthers' record isn't good. But to end on a high note like that, heading into the offseason, if that doesn't give you the encouragement to make any moves, then I don't know what will. Because Bryce Young and company, they do have some good things about them, but they have some bad things, and especially that defense. Because that defense gave up 38 points to Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons. And Michael Penix, even despite this being only his third game starting in the NFL as a pro, he still played pretty solid. You know, he did have the one ugly interception, but that's growing pains. He should grow from that. But if you're the Atlanta Falcons, Joey, you're kicking yourselves literally and figuratively because this is the second consecutive week you've lost a game to close out the season in overtime. Last week, the Washington, and this week, the Carolina.
Well, if only Kirk Cousins knew how to be a good quarterback this season. Oh, that's right. He couldn't. Because you know why? Because he finally got that contract. He finally got that contract that from him stating that he was going to be the leader of the Atlanta Falcons for years and years and years and years to come. Even when the Falcons pulled an absolute shocker by drafting the now starter Michael Penix Jr., number 8 overall in the NFL draft, Kirk Cousins had his doubts. But he knew that, oh, well, they're pretty much setting things up for like the Green Bay Packers used to do. Because when Aaron Rodgers got drafted, he learned from Brett Favre. When Jordan Love got drafted, he learned from Aaron Rodgers. So now we got this young rookie coming in against all my experience being a quarterback in the NFL. He's going to learn from me. I'm going to be his mentor. So, yeah, a quick question for you, Kirk Cousins. How did that work out for you? Oh, that's right. It didn't. Because you sucked. And now, you're probably going to get cut by the team that put so much faith and so much trust, so much belief in you that they pretty much broke their bank to bring you to Atlanta. And now, all these other teams out there, yes, there are some that do need quarterbacks. When they find out how much your cap space hits for an NFL franchise, ain't nobody gonna sign you. Not even to be a backup. Because the team that winds up signing Kirk Cousins, if he gets released by Atlanta, they're going to have one of the biggest cap space hits that the NFL has seen in a very long time.
Yeah, and if you're Atlanta, you're going to be thinking about this all off season long because literally breaking the bank, like you said, Joey, to sign Kirk Cousins to this massive deal worth what? At least $100 million?
As a matter of fact, let me pull up that contract.
That massive contract that they signed Kirk Cousins to in the offseason. I'm like, okay, he is a pretty solid player when he's on his A game. I think it was like over 100
years. 4 years, $180 million.
You're paying that man $180 million. And
that is technically $45 million a year for 4 years.
$45 million a year. And in one season alone, his bad tendencies came back to bite him in the ass real quick. Because there was a stretch where he had 9 interceptions. 9. In one game alone, he had 4. In one game alone, he had 4 INTs.
Yep, and just like I mentioned earlier, this is what ESPN wrote as far as the whole Kirk Cousins situation. If the Falcons cut Kirk Cousins before the start of the 2025 league year, which is March the 12th, then the Falcons would get hit with $65 million in dead money.
And that will hurt them in the
That will
offseason.
hurt them from even trying to bring in a long snapper to help to try to help the team out.
Because
Because
you
they
can
ain't gonna
talk
be able
about
to afford anybody.
Nope. You can talk about, oh, we want to cut him, on and cut him. Oh, you got until March the 12th to do it. And if you screw this
Oh,
up,
no. They can't do it until March 12th. If
they
they do it
can't.
beforehand, they will get hit with that $65 million.
Okay.
But if they do it after, they'll be okay.
Oh, okay. If you're Atlanta, you better do it after March the 12th. You better. Because if you don't, you're idiots. Unbelievable. Kirk Cousins was paid this boatload of money, and he did not play it pretty much all year long. He had a stretch of games where he was really good, and then towards the second half of the season, he really, 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 really shot himself in the foot with his performances. Just not being careful with the ball, turning the ball over, just not paying attention to his reads on the field, fumbling the ball, throwing interceptions. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think yes, it was the Chargers game that started that turnover streak, because that was the game when the Chargers beat Atlanta 17-13, and that was the game that he had 4 interceptions. Unbelievable. Kirk Cousins has been so bad that they finally pulled the trigger and inserted Michael Penix as the starting quarterback for the final 3 games of the regular season. And I tell you the game that did it for them was that shitty Raiders game. Oh, that game was so bad. So bad. Oh, it was the worst game of the season. Worst game. That was one of the worst, or excuse me, one of.
Okay, I was about to say the worst. I think
No,
the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks Bears game has that one beat.
my bad. I meant to say one of, because we know Seattle and Chicago is the worst. Anyways, moving on to your Washington Commanders. Yet again, the miracle team does it again. The team that throws together game-winning touchdown drives in crunch time and in the clutch does it again against the Cowboys. And the Washington Commanders did it again with their backups predominantly in this game. Jaden Daniels did play a little bit, then they took him out. But then Marcus Mariota led a game-winning touchdown drive to Scary Terry in the final seconds of regulation to knock off the Cowboys 23-19.
Scary Terry.
Yep. And if you are the Commanders, and I know you've been a fan of them for years, whenever the Redskins all those years, but this organization has been through it all. The ups, the downs of getting Robert Griffin III in 2012 in the NFL draft, making the playoffs that year with over at least 10 wins. And then for the last nearly 11 years, this team has experienced hell on earth with Dan Snyder at the helm, running this team literally into the ground. And then it was up to other people to finally pick up the pieces of this team, build it back together. And Josh Harris and company have done just that. Because the Washington Commanders, for the very first time since 2012, have won at least 10 games and are in the playoffs. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders have a lot to be happy about. And honestly, I think they're ahead on schedule. I really, truly believe that the Commanders are ahead of schedule. Because now that Jaden Daniels, let's be honest, he's won the Rookie of the Year. He's won the Rookie of the Year. All the moments that he is given us NFL fans and Washington football fans around the world, he's given us moments that will stand the test of time. That Hail Mary against Chicago was the game that defied his rookie season. And then you can make the argument that his game-winning TD pass against Philadelphia, that right there was
his 5 touchdown passes on the day.
Yep.
Might I add?
5 touchdowns in the game, including the game-winning touchdown pass with under 10 seconds to go in the game to win the game against Philadelphia. That was the cherry on top. That right there cemented him as the Rookie of the Year. But the Washington Commanders have a lot to play for. They have a lot to be, thankful for. And they're going to be a fit for a lot of teams for years to come.
Yes, indeed. And going back to something we talked about earlier, forget what I said about Antonio Pierce being kept, because I just now found out that he got fired earlier.
Yep, I read that earlier. He got fired.
Wow. So forget what I said.
Yep.
Dang.
Yep, he got fired. I read that earlier on Twitter. Also, before we get to some more of the news that came down, as far as Week 18 is concerned, what was it? Washington obviously beat the Cowboys in that game, and then I guess we'll get to the Sunday night game.
Let's see.
I know I'm
looking back at some of the.
I know I'm missing something. Washington.
Oh. How about a certain team that?
Oh yeah, I know what I'm missing.
Broke a that literally broke a 6-year losing streak by kicking a game-winning field goal, which is something they couldn't do when the two teams faced off earlier in the season.
That's right. The Chicago Bears have broken the losing streak of this regular season and the 6-year losing streak against Green Bay. That's another thing I was thinking about. Yep, glad you brought that up, because got to give credit to Chicago. They had nothing to play for. They were already eliminated from playoff contingency, but they went out there in the Lambeau and they stunned Green Bay. And honestly, Jordan Love getting injured with the elbow injury, that right there could be very bad for them. But speaking of very bad, wide receiver Christian Watson is out, not just for the playoffs, but probably for the entire 25 regular season next year when that rolls around, because Christian Watson, unfortunately, has torn his ACL.
Yeah.
And even our very own Ezra said, look, I'm not a Packers fan, but I felt for him. I felt for Watson going down with that ugly ACL injury. I mean, at the end of the day, we might be fans of football teams, but at the end of the day, we are fans. We are respectful fans of these teams. Because at the end of the day, these teams, these players, they're just regular people. And I don't care where you stand, if you're a Bears fan, if you're a Packers fan, if the opposing team's player goes down, and the majority of fans do show respect, and rightly so, and that's good that they do. But Christian Watson, unfortunately, has torn his ACL, and he will be out. And that is a much-needed piece for Jordan Love. And speaking of Jordan Love got banged up in this game, and I alluded to his elbow injury that he suffered during the game. And if you are Green Bay with this loss against Chicago, you are just like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You are wounded. You are walking into the playoffs literally limping like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, and you're going to have to face the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia Eagles didn't have nothing to play for. on Sunday because they locked up the number 2 seed. The only thing that was on the line was Eric Dickerson's record of the most rushing yards by a running back in NFL history, and Saquon Barkley was 101 yards from breaking that record. But like I just talked about with Jordan Love's elbow injury, you can't afford to have your star players out there getting hurt in a meaningless game that doesn't really mean nothing because the Packers weren't going to go higher nor lower. They really weren't going to go any lower because the lowest they could go is the 7th seed, and the highest they could have gone, which wouldn't have mattered because the Commanders won, could have been the 6th seed that the Commanders would have won or would have lost. Excuse me. But yeah, Philadelphia, they're going to be a tough outing for Green Bay. Green Bay's going to have a long game ahead of them, in my opinion. But we'll get to those picks right after we get through with our finding out the results for our prediction battles segment from this past season.
Well, not so fast there, my friend.
Oh, really?
Not so fast, because Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni spoke at a press conference earlier today, and he said that Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol.
Whoa! So it's an even matchup for Green Bay potentially.
And he is progressing, but slowly. Which means, yes, he is progressing, but he's still way behind than what he needs to be before the Eagles take the practice field starting tomorrow.
Interesting.
So if Jalen Hurts cannot get any reps in by Friday, then the Eagles might be in trouble on Sunday against the Packers.
Interesting. And we talked about it all season long that Philadelphia might be the only team that could give Detroit fits in the playoffs from a logistics standpoint because every other team in the NFC is beatable. Because in my opinion, the NFC is the weakest it has ever been. Yeah, there are some pretty good teams in there, but it's not as strong as it used to be because the AFC is the conference where it's at. With the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens and the Chargers and the freaking Steelers, even though they're wounded. And you have, the Texans. And speaking of the Texans, they won their game against the Titans. CJ Stroud looked good on that first series that he only played. Had a touchdown drive. And
but Tennessee, they may have lost that game, but they also won because with that loss to Houston, they have now officially clinched the number 1 overall seed or pick in this upcoming April's NFL draft.
Yep. And their general manager has been fired as well.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much all the games except for...
Obviously, the Colts beat the Jags.
Shocker.
Real quick, I'll run on briefly the other score. The Colts beat the Jags in overtime 26-23. Afterwards, Doug Peterson was fired.
Yes, indeed, he was.
He was fired. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Rams.
He was fired by the Tony Cantona Jaguars.
Yep. And the Seattle Seahawks won against the Rams with their backups 30-25. That was still a pretty competitive game, but again, the Seahawks had nothing to play for because they were out of the playoffs.
But yeah,
and real quick, before we get to the Sunday night game, congratulations to not only the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from winning the NFC South Division, but congratulations to one of the best wide receivers to put on a pair of pads and a helmet, Mike friggin' Evans. Besides Jerry Rice, he has had 11 consecutive seasons of at least 1,000 receiving yards. What a complete class act the Buccaneers are of doing that at home with, and how they did it with Mike Evans on Sunday. That was really cool against the Saints. And if you're the Bucs, If you are the Bucks, you are fortunate that you played the Saints, because the Saints for 3 quarters gave the Bucks fits in this game. The Bucks barely survived the Saints 29 or 27-19, and they secured a back-to-back division title. Or excuse me, they won the NFC South the last 4 seasons. So congratulations to Mike Evans for joining along with Jerry Rice as the only wide receivers to win or to have at least 1,000 yards in 11 consecutive seasons. He finished the year with over 1,000 yards. Frankly, it was 1,003 yards. So congratulations to one of the best wide receivers, Mike Evans. And the Buccaneers were the last team in the NFC to clinch that playoff spot for the NFC. And like we alluded to in the AFC, the Broncos clinched the 7th seed, and the Bengals and the Dolphins were both eliminated. And now to get to the game that on paper was said to be the best game of the season.
Hang on. Before we go into that Sunday night game, I do want to point out real quick that it is very interesting that you bring up Mike Evans, because a little birdie has told me that Mike Evans on Sunday night could be facing a good buddy of his.
Oh, yeah.
By the name of his biggest enemy, I might say, Marshawn Lattimore.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, for those of y'all that know what I'm talking about, oh yeah, those two have had some battles on the field.
Yes, they have.
Those two have had some battles. So if Marshawn Lattimore is able to suit up on Sunday night, you better believe that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt are going to put him on Mike Evans. You better believe it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No questions asked.
Now on to that absolute shocker of a Sunday night game, which was supposed to be a dogfight to the absolute end, but it wasn't to be.
One team showed up and played. That was the Lions.
The other team didn't.
The Minnesota Vikings. What in the blue hell was that? Especially to Sam Darnold. What in the blue hell was that? Because there was multiple times that Darnold went back to old Darnold habits of overthrowing wide receivers. Like there was like 4 consecutive passes that he threw at one point in this game that literally went over receiver hedges. Just over their heads. Falling to the turf. Incomplete. Like it was crazy. I'm literally sitting there as I'm listening to the Westwood One broadcast, and I'm like, he ever threw him again? What the hell? Like it's crazy because Darnold going in to Sunday night's game, he was having great games with Minnesota. He seemed to put that monkey behind him, that monkey off his back, that, oh, Darnold can't play great. He can't play consistent. Because going into this game, the Vikings had a 9-game winning streak. Minnesota was playing some really good football on not just the offensive end of the spectrum, but also on the defense. And even their defense did not even show up mostly during this game. Yeah, Jared Goff had 2 interceptions in this game and almost had a critical 3rd interception when this game was still in reach. But Minnesota had multiple chances to make this a game. They had multiple chances to score in this game when it was still a puncher's chance of winning this game. Because at halftime it was 10-6. And not just that. There was two times the Vikings entered the Detroit's red zone and failed to score a touchdown or taking the damn points. Because I'm sitting there, again, listening to the Westwood One's coverage of this game. And I'm going, take the damn points. Take the damn points. What are you doing? Take the points. Quit trying to match up to Detroit's aggressive mentality to try to play on their level. Because as we all know, Dan Campbell loves to be aggressive, and he was aggressive during this game against the Minnesota. The Vikings shot themselves in the foot in this game. Darnold was so bad a lot of the times. The offensive line, you know, they had their times, where they were good at protecting him, but he was just missing receivers. Like it was just a bad day at the office. And if you're Minnesota, your 9-game winning streak just ends like that in a blowout that we all said on this show. This is going to be a great game. It was not a great game because, hell, the Panthers and Falcons game, quite frankly, was a way better competitive game than this game was. The Minnesota Vikings must have not have got the 4-1-1. Hey, hello, there's a game on Sunday night that's going to be for not only for the NFC North crown, but for the number 1 overall seed. Detroit played this game like they needed it because the Lions all year long have been bitten by the injury bug, but they somehow, some way continue to find endless ways to not only win, but to step up and make plays. I may not be a Lions fan, but I am so happy for this organization that they have finally have arrived to where they want to be, where they think they think they want to be, because getting to this spot where they are at being the number 1 overall seed, it has not been easy for Detroit. It has not been easy. But Detroit has not only rebounded in the face of adversity, but they have exceeded everything. Because if we remember last year against San Francisco in the NFC Championship game, Detroit was several plays away from getting into the Super Bowl. And now, Detroit has the next best thing that this organization has never experienced on this juncture as a franchise. The number 1 seed. They have it, and most importantly, they have the bye to get players healthy. And a win-win situation for the Lions that David Montgomery is probably going to be back in time for Detroit's divisional round game at Ford Field. Congratulations to Dan Campbell. Congratulations to Detroit from getting this far and getting in to the number 1 overall spot in the NFC. Because if they would have had to go on the road, they could have easily lost some of these games on the road. Because the Rams are not easy to play against, and the Bucs had their fair share of talent as well to make noise on the field as well. But if you're Minnesota, you are kicking yourselves. And joining us right now, ladies and gentlemen, he is our brother from Nation Night Fights, Smoking the Bay. He's an all-around good brother. He's an all-around lover, enthusiast of cigars. Hijacker Mike, what's going on, man?
What's happening, brothers? How y'all doing today?
Doing good. Fine. How about yourself, bro?
Doing a hell of a lot better than the Minnesota Vikings are on Sunday night. Good grief.
Eesh.
Yeah, they kind of got eaten up by the Lions, didn't they?
They did, literally and figuratively.
Most notably, they got eaten up by running back Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you go medieval and throw Vikings in the lion den.
But no, we were just recapping these games in Week 18. But before we get to the results for the prediction battles, what were some of the thoughts that kind of stuck out to you in Week 18? Because there was a couple of things that stuck out to me. Like the Panthers and Falcons game was competitive.
Yeah.
The Bengals ended their season on a 5-game winning streak, but not where they wanted to be, missing the playoffs because they're going to be kicking themselves because if they would have beat the Patriots, if they would have beaten the Chargers in this season, if they would have beat the Steelers in that first game when they lost 44-38 or whatever it was, 44-38, whatever it was, they lost that game. If they would have, or even if they would have won at least one of the Baltimore games, they would not have to be relying on other teams to help them.
Yeah. You know what game stuck out to me the most, and it made me think: is this team vulnerable if key players are not there? And that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Uh,
Yes.
Mm.
when you get your ass whooped, now I'm not taking anything away from Denver. Denver has become a good team. Nix has become a decent quarterback. He may be their quarterback of the future if he keeps
Mm.
playing the way he did.
Mm.
But when you get knocked out 38, what 38 to nothing, right?
Mm.
Yep.
38
38 to nothing.
nothing with your backups, that's an alarming. Yeah, okay, I understand with Mahomes not playing, Otto not playing, pun. You know,
Mhm.
I understand you may not win many games, but you should at least have your second and third squad put points on the board, at least a couple field goals, at least a touchdown or two. But they got goose egg, dude. They got zilch, and that's an alarming piece of work right there because that shows you, just like Santa Clara, when you're missing key players, you ain't gonna go anywhere. Now, I understand they're hitting the playoffs and they're hitting the ground hard running with the bye and everything, and I think they're the top seed in the AFC, right?
They are the top
They
seed in
are.
the AFC because
Yeah.
even though Buffalo beat them in a head-to-head
Hmm.
matchup, they still have that one more conference victory in the AFC to
Yeah.
get that rightful spot. Because you're right, Mike. Because when you think about this, Carson Wentz is their backup, and he did not produce any results on that field
And
because
he knows what it takes to get to the Super Bowl.
I agree. Even though he's never taken a team to the Super Bowl, but he's been on a Philadelphia team that he led that charge during the 2017 season before he tore his ACL against the Rams, and he's won a Super Bowl as a backup with the Chiefs. So he has seen his fair share of action with the Chiefs and has put up numbers on the field. But the fact that he showed up in Denver, and even though they had nothing to play for, in his mind he could have thought, "Hey, if we beat this team, they're out."
Yeah.
Instead, they showed up and didn't play a damn lick of football. Because if you're the
Yeah.
Bengals, everything went right for you up until this point. The Bengals beat the Steelers. The Dolphins lost to the Jets.
Yeah.
If you're the Chiefs, I know that they had nothing to play for, but at least try. Try.
Yeah, it's the last game of the season. You want to go out on a high note, even if you're not making the playoffs, even if you're blown out, and your season's a lost cause. Like
But even if you
everybody,
have even if you lock up a spot, at least try.
yeah, yeah. I understand it didn't harm anybody's positioning, but like I said, it's an alarm that goes off in the head when you get beat like you have when your main players are not on the field. That means your backups aren't ready, or maybe they've given up and said, hey, you know what? Let's just relax this game, get through it, get to the playoffs, and then we'll turn it back on. It's a tough thought and call, man. I don't care if I'm down 40 to nothing. I'm still trying to put in some decent work to get my team motivated, because that shit carries on to the next week, which a lot of these teams don't have.
And if you think about it, the Chiefs, even though they won 3 of these championships in the last 5 years,
Hmm.
they're going for history. They're going for their fourth Super Bowl in 6 years, and more importantly, for their history and immortality in sports history, they're going for a three-peat. No
Yeah,
team besides San Francisco in 1988-89, when they won back-to-back going into the 1990-91 season, no team has come this close to three-peating. This
yeah,
history is, they're going to be chasing it. And again, I said it before you came on. I will not bet against Mahomes, but in the back of my head, I'm also thinking as well, it would not surprise me if the pressure of three-peating gets to this team and they lose. Because
yeah,
if you're the Ravens, if you're the Bills, you have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose because you never won a Super Bowl. You've
yeah.
never been there with these group of players. They have nothing to lose. But the Chiefs have everything to win and to lose.
Oh, yeah.
But we were also talking about that Lions and Vikings game because Sam Darnold in this game, and I alluded to it because I was listening to the Westwood One broadcast on Sirius XM. Sam Darnold in this game had multiple times in this game where he was overthrowing wide receivers, missing his targets left and right, left and
Yeah,
right.
pretty
I'm
bad.
like,
Pretty bad.
dude, like you're resorting back to your days with the Jets, your days with the Panthers, your days even with the Vikings when he was there during his first tenure with the team. This team did not look like a 14-win team that went on a 9-game winning streak that won multiple games consecutively, not just on the road. I mean, excuse me, at home, but on the road. This
Yeah.
team did not even bother to show up. The Lions at least showed up and played a competitive game. A competitive game. The Vikings didn't even bother to show up. They were late at the dinner table, figuratively speaking, because
Exactly. And um forgive me if I'm wrong, but weren't the Vikings at one point didn't they have the lowest positive point differential?
they did. I think
I
so.
thought so. So, I mean, yeah, the Vikings and see, and now they're going to be facing the only non-Detroit team that gave them a loss in the regular season on Saturday. I
The
mean,
Rams.
excuse me, on Monday.
The Rams, when the Rams had their winning streak continue. Because also as well, when the Vikings lost those 2 consecutive games, it was coincidentally to the Lions and to the Rams.
Yep.
And those are the next 2 teams they're facing. They faced the Lions this past week to wrap up the season, and they're facing the Rams to end Super Wild Card Weekend on Monday night. And if you're the Vikings, you're just as beatable and vulnerable as any team in the NFC. Because, like we even talked about it too, Mike, Philadelphia could be in a world of trouble if
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is not suiting up in that game against the Packers.
Yeah, because the Packers will turn it on, man. They will flip it around if you're not ready. We'll have to wait and see, man. That's probably going to be the game of the weekend. I'm gonna look at. I believe, man. That should be a high-powered back and forth game.
But it also should be the most interesting game because, again, the Packers have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They've been in this predicament when they beat the hell out of the Cowboys a year ago to the almost literal weekend when they beat the shit out of the Cowboys on the road. Oh my God, that game still cracks me up to this literal day.
28-0.
At one point, 28
At
to
one
nothing.
point.
Ended up being what? Was it 48 to 32? Don't let that final score fool
Yeah,
you.
48-32, but it was 48-16.
Yep, with that emphatic touchdown pass by Jordan Love. I believe it was to Dobbs.
Dobbs, yeah.
Nobody was in the Dallas zip code. Like, hello? Cover a wide receiver, please. Hello? Nope. Nope. Nada. Nope. Nope. But yeah, if you're the Vikings, you are limping into the playoffs because the Rams are going to be a tough outing to beat in the NFC side of the playoff bracket because Matthew Stafford's already won a Super Bowl. Cooper Kupp's already won a Super Bowl. But he's got some young players on that team that still motivates him, like Puka Nacua, to play.
Yeah.
And
Kyron Williams.
Kyron Williams, exactly. But yeah, it should be a very interesting wild card weekend. Congratulations, like I said, to the Lions for securing the #1 overall seed in the NFC with a emphatic 31-9 victory. Also forgot to mention that the Arizona Cardinals took care of business and dispatched the injuredly prone San Francisco 49 IRs, as Kevin would say. 40-24. That was no contest.
47-24.
47-24. Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. But yeah, the Raiders lost their game. Who did they play again?
Chargers.
Chargers. Yep.
Chargers.
Chargers beat them emphatically to secure the 5th seed. believe that was 27 to, what was it, 27 to
34-20.
34-20. Okay, 34-20. And obviously the Jets beat the Dolphins by 14 as well. Well, that wraps up our coverage of the final full week of the NFL season. But before we get to our predictions for the wild card weekend, Joey, I believe you have some numbers to rattle off as we reveal the final results of the 2024-25 NFL Our Nation Sports Show prediction battles.
Indeed, but I'm going to start off with how we did this past week for week 18. Kevin actually won the week 18 battle last week, going 12-4. Me, Steven, and Ezra all finished tied for second at 10-6, and Hijacker rounded up the field going 8-8.
Yeah, I was cut on Black Monday. I am now teamless. I'm now taking applications into all West Coast teams except for one.
That will be nameless.
Alright, but yes, I do have our final standings for the whole entire year on the pick segment. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to reveal 5th place, 4th place, and 3rd place, and then I'm going to reveal the winner. So, coming in last place with a total record of 174-98 is Ezra. Coming in 4th place with a final record of 183-89 is Kevin. And coming in 3rd place, which is not bad, seeing as how this was his first year of doing it, with a final record of 187-85, our very own Hijacker Mike.
Not bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
Those were due to high gambles earlier in the season, I bet. There was probably a good 10, 15 games I gambled on, and
Oh,
that's where I
you
probably
did
lost
your
it.
fair share of gambling. There was a stretch where I think you gambled on like 5 or 6 picks in a row. And I'm like,
Pretty
man,
much.
either he's going to get behind the 8 ball or he's going to surge ahead. And there was a couple of times you put up a very valuable effort in this contest. This was a lot of fun. And like I told you and told everybody else, like, like when you have, we don't do this for, oh, I'm better than you, you know it. Sorry, MJF, to steal your line. But we we do this because we love doing this. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun to come on here during the regular season and do a prediction battles, because a lot of these shows on Sirius XM and around the world do predictions, but they don't do predictions like we do. We actually predict the games. We don't do the spreads and all that bullshit. We predict the games. We predict the games, and there has been a couple of times where we have actually not only gotten the games correct, but we have gotten the game correct of the team winning and the score.
Yeah, we did that a few times, right?
And
Yeah,
also,
we did that
before
a
we
few
get to the final
times.
results, I do want to bring this up. Congratulations to those of us that have either, the one thing I will say about this, and this will probably never happen again, but we had nearly 3 people on this show. 4 people, excuse me. Hell, no, all of us nearly went perfect at one point or another, either consecutive times or for the first time, because in week 6, Joey and I went undefeated. And I've never kept up with games like that. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute. We actually have a shot to go perfect in one week. When's that going to happen again? And we almost did it again in
Right.
week, what was it, week 13, 14?
Something like that, where we only lost a game.
Yeah, and that was the Ravens and Eagles game. But that's probably my favorite achievement of the year, is going perfect and you going perfect, and Kevin nearly going perfect. And who would have thought that the one team he went against was his boys again, when it was San Francisco versus Seattle. That's just for me personally a personal achievement that I'm happy about. That at least for 1 week, a couple of us, went perfect. But let's be honest, predicting these games, it is very difficult at times.
Oh, very difficult.
Yeah. Take a
Trust
look
me.
at this past Sunday.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, there were several games.
Oh,
Even though
yes. Several.
everybody's position was damn near solidified, but damn, you never think anybody would go out like that. Teams that should be winning. If it was week 8, the teams that lost would have cruised through and just pounded these
Oh,
teams like
heck
nothing if it
yeah.
was week 8.
Mm-hmm.
But now, without further ado, let's have our winner of the pick segment for the entire season. Now, for once, for the first time ever, the tiebreaker was actually not needed.
Nope.
The
Because all of
tiebreaker
us
was
suck.
not needed because the one who finished first and the one who finished second were only separated by 1 game.
Wow.
Damn, pretty good.
1 game. And with a final record of 191 and 81, the winner of the pick segment is yours truly.
Whoa. Unbelievable.
Steven, you came in second at 190 and 82.
Woo.
Oh. Do we need to call the government for a recount?
Believe it or not,
Congratulations,
I
brother.
kept up with
Congratulations,
this
man.
all season long, and there were some times that I thought that somebody else was going to pull it out. I mean, Hijacker, you hung close several weeks, as did Steven. It was going to be either one of us.
Either one. I mean, it was fun.
What was the loss records between us top 3?
Um,
How many games? I think I had 85, 86?
85.
between second
Okay.
and third, it was 3 games.
Okay.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So there's no
But
blowouts, huh?
But going into week 18, here's the killer. Going into week 18, the 3 of us were separated by only 2 games.
That is insane. And I kept thinking to myself, because I'm going, okay, if we ever did come down to a tiebreaker, how the hell would we, disclose this? Because like it's crazy, because to think that it was so close. And this week was crazy because we all were throwing caution to the wind. We were all just like, screw it. It's the last week. You can go as crazy as you want, because there's no way to go any further or higher.
That's right.
Because, not gonna lie, there was a couple of times. Because I said it during the show last week that I did not trust the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And I still didn't trust the Jets. So I didn't feel good about picking the Jets. But again, this was a lot of fun because we do this for fun. And what's also cool is, for the very first time on this show, we have our own championship belt that will be going to the winner's home. And also, I'll make a suggestion. I think this would be really cool. And I even talked to Joey about this. I think what would be really cool is, not only do we keep that championship belt as the one that goes obviously from home to home, but I do think it would be cool, maybe the people that win the individual ones. Like I won last year, Joey won this year, Kevin won the year before that. I think it would be cool at some point, maybe down the line, to maybe get our own custom-made belts that we won for our respective, prediction battles, and for the foreseeable ones that do win these things, because eventually that kind of would be cool, to have, a little bit of memorabilia, hanging around the house. Because I know since we made this as a competitive contest for fun, we've been doing this And even when Kevin won in 22, that was a year where it was so competitive because that's when the tiebreaker came into place. That and then last year, that's when the tiebreaker came into place. But in times like these, sometimes the tiebreaker isn't needed. But if there would have been a tiebreaker finish, that right there wouldn't have really mattered because none of us got our games correct. As far now we got our teams correct, except now Kevin would have had the next best chance because Kevin nearly had the correct score, but he had the wrong team when the Bears beat the Packers. Only he was the one that came the closest with the score. None of us with our picks came close at all.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that because if it were to have come down to two players being tied with the same record, we of course would have gone to the tiebreaker, and if that would have been the case, then the winner would have been, for the second year in a row, Steven. You would have won
Interesting.
because your score for the Bucks Saints game of 31-14 would have been the closest.
Oh, I thought I picked the Eagles.
No, you picked the Bucks and the Saints. So your score would have been closest, which means if we would have had two of us finish with the same record, it would have gone
That's
to the tiebreaker, and you would have won for the second year in a row.
Wow.
I could have sworn I thought I picked the Eagles. Okay,
Nope.
interesting. So I guess I did make the right call if we did come down to a tiebreaker to pick the Bucks because I was thinking, okay, division games, which one is the likelihood to be, a potential? Because that's the thing when you're also predicting these things, like you kind of have to be very wise, with picking these games because again, that's the fun, competitive spirit of this for fun. Is when we come
Absolutely.
on here, we do this to have a lot of
Yep.
fun. And
And not get booed out of the building like Hogan last night.
oh dear
Oh,
God.
yes.
Oh my
Oh,
God. If the Iron Sheik was here, he would be laughing his ass off. Fuck the Hulk Hogan. I do it. You son of a bitch. So good.
shit.
So
Shit.
good. Again, congratulations, my brother. You deserve it.
Yep.
It's been a hell of a run again. And looking forward to doing this once again when the regular season gets underway in September.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Congratulations, brother. Go ahead and DM me your address, and I will get that belt off to you this Saturday.
Sounds good. I will get it. I will get that to you once we get off the show tonight.
Hell yeah.
Bet.
That's going to be great.
Oh, well, I think that'll pretty much do it for pick segment. So now we got some more picking to do.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So let's get things. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the playoff schedule. If you'll give me just a moment. Okay, so I got all 6 games right here. So let's go ahead and
Alrighty.
get this over with.
Yep.
Starting on Saturday on CBS at 4:30, it's going to be Justin Herbert and the Chargers going into Houston to take on CJ Stroud and the Texans.
This is a very interesting game because
This
the
is a very
Texans
interesting game.
the Texans are a team that are limping into the playoffs with not a lot of momentum on their side because they have lost a lot of games in a row and the injury bug has bitten them and just the inconsistency of CJ Stroud, came into play.
Yeah,
And
so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. I'm going with the road team. I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are going to come in, make a statement, and move on to the next round. And I think the Chargers are going to do it by a final score of 30-17.
I'm going to go with the Chargers as well because I think their defense so far is way better than the Texans, defense. And obviously their defense is going to get CJ Stroud a lot of fits. So I'm thinking the Chargers are going to pull this out by 10. I'm going to go with the Chargers to beat the Texans. I'm going to go the Chargers 27-17.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see the Chargers stopping. Harbaugh has got these guys clicking. There's just a few more missing pieces this guy needs to go. I don't think the Chargers are going to go all the way. They can go deep and end up playing Kansas City or Buffalo in the championship for the AFC, but I do have the Chargers winning this one 27-13. Harbaugh's done a hell of a job with these guys. And did I say San Diego again, or did I say the Chargers? I can't fucking remember.
You said the Chargers. You didn't say San Diego, but
Okay.
to be fair, you can take San Diego. You can take the Chargers out of San Diego, but eventually you can't take the San Diego out of the Chargers.
No, you really can't.
Yeah, but shit, the Raiders and the A's, they've been taken out of Oakland, and good fucking riddance.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
moving on to our final Saturday game on Amazon Prime Video.
Here we fucking go. You're going to
AFC.
block people out of fucking playoff games?
Yeah, seriously, but two
Well,
AFC North foes, Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers, going into Baltimore to take on Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And then keep in mind, Lamar Jackson has had his struggles in the playoffs.
He has, but
so will that streak continue?
he has had his struggles, but I don't think his struggles will continue against the Steelers. Because the Steelers, again, there's a common thread throughout these first couple of games. The Steelers have been wounded heading into the playoffs. And I think the Ravens are going to beat the Steelers, knock them out of the playoffs. I think Baltimore is going to hang on and they're going to beat Pittsburgh in a highly competitive game, AFC North style. Give me the Ravens to beat the Steelers in a very competitive AFC North game that, as they all know how to do. Give me the Ravens to win 24-20.
Whoa, you're going close. I'm going to go just a little farther out, but not by much. I'm going to add a touchdown to the score or to the score outcome. And I think the Ravens are going to pull this one out by a score of 34-23.
Okay. Anybody notice that The Rock's going to be on NXT tonight?
Yeah.
Ha! Wow.
Yep.
My bad. We're talking football. My bad. Yeah, Baltimore, I think Lamar has some skeletons in his head that he needs to clear out, some bad memories. So I think Baltimore's got this one 24-16.
Okay. All right, moving on to Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Bo Nix, who has guided the Denver Broncos to the playoffs as a rookie for the first time since John Elway did it all those years ago. They have a tough test ahead of them as they are going to Orchard Park to take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
And this is where I think Denver's ride will end because Josh Allen is a man on a mission. Give me Buffalo. Yeah, Denver, you've had a nice little Cinderella story making it to the playoffs with your rookie starting quarterback, but I think Josh Allen is here to crush the Broncos. Give me the Buffalo Bills to beat the Broncos. We'll pull away winning this game. Give me Buffalo 31-20.
I'm going to go with the same score for Denver, but not the same score for Buffalo. I think that Josh Allen is going to come in here and make a statement, and he is going to guide Buffalo to an outstanding win, and I think that defense is going to give Bo Nix some fits on several occasions. So I'm going to pick the Buffalo Bills to win outright, 41-20.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I do like Nix. He's a nice young upcoming quarterback, but unless Denver has Mr. Perfect playing for them at quarterback, ain't happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I see Buffalo winning this one 35-17.
All right. Now, Sunday afternoon at 4:30. This is a game that might have our heads a little scratched, depending on who plays and who doesn't play. But regardless, this game has to be played. The Packers and the Eagles in Philadelphia.
I can see the Eagles pulling this out whether Hurts plays or not. If Hurts plays, they're definitely winning big. So it's kind of weird. I'd have two scores for this one. Has he been cleared to play yet, or been said to play, or is this
He
a game
has
time?
not. I was saying just before you came on the air, hijacker, that Nick Sirianni spoke at a press conference earlier today, and he has confirmed that Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. And even though he is showing small signs of progression, he's still a ways away from taking any practice
Okay.
reps. So if he
And
cannot get any practice reps in by Friday, chances are we will not see him this weekend.
okay, because I know him coming back, he's going to be a little rusty because when you miss a couple of weeks, you got to get back into mid-season form. And we've seen guys, look at McCaffrey from the Niners. He just felt out of place this year. Yeah, he had a few good games when he was in there, but he didn't look comfortable 100% like he normally
Yeah, that is
is.
very true.
Mm-hmm.
So if Jalen, I'm going with the Eagles regardless. If Jalen plays, it's a tough score. I'm going to take it down to the wires, man. Eagles 24-23. I'm just not going to talk. 24-23 Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, even though if Jalen doesn't play, I still think that Saquon Barkley, they're gonna run through him. He's gonna pound the rock and he's gonna pound the Packers into the turf. I think that the Eagles, no matter who their quarterback is, they should, keyword should, win this game because they have the better overall team. Give me Philadelphia, regardless who their quarterback is. I think Green Bay's gonna give them a run for their money. I do think that Philadelphia will pull it off. Give me Philadelphia. Give me Philadelphia to win barely 23-16.
Give me the Eagles 27-24.
Okay.
All
All
close
right.
games, fairly.
And
Yep.
now, up next, on Sunday night, the game I'm ready for. A rematch from week 1 this season. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders going into Tampa to take on the Bucks.
Oh,
Now, this game is going to be hard because Bucks head coach Todd Bowles himself has said what I've been saying ever since I first learned of this matchup. This Commanders team now is so much better than that Commanders team we saw in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
So much better.
Mm-hmm.
yep. Yeah.
And if Marshawn Lattimore is able to play, and is able to play at the form that he is used to playing, he's going to give Mike Evans some fits.
Oh yes.
Now, I get it. Our run defense and our secondary is definitely a little lackluster. So Bucky Irving and Rashad White could get some nice carries. Baker Mayfield could catch a hot hand. But I'm actually going to go with my boys.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm going to go with my boys. I think that we have blown past expectations so far as us as we are concerned this year. I do think it is going to be a close game. So I am actually gonna go once again a touchdown with less than 10 seconds to go in the game. The Commanders are gonna walk out of Tampa as winners by a final score of 27-23.
Oh my God. You're literally reading my mind. That was the exact same predicament and score that I had. I think that the Commanders are going to find a way to squeak out a victory as Jaden Daniels, because I'm telling you, Tampa is a team that's a little shaky. Tampa this year does not have the same, like, they do have some parts on their defense that can make plays, but they're not a team that's they're not Minnesota, they're not Buffalo, they're not Philadelphia, they're not the Chargers. They don't have a lot of players that can keep up with quality talent. Like there's been times where Tampa, has had to dig themselves out of predicaments in order to win some of these games. I really truly think that if Jaden Daniels is gonna go to the playoffs, he's gonna make an impact in his first game. I think he's gonna do it. I'm calling it. Scary Terry on the receiving end of a Jaden Daniels touchdown walk off. 10 seconds to go. 27-23, the exact same predicament and score that you had, Joey.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Great minds think alike.
Indeed.
Yeah. I'm going with you guys. I see Washington.
Washington. Washington.
That's a little southern, they call it Washington down there in the South a lot, down there in Texas and Louisiana when I go visit family. I got Washington winning this one 17-14. It's going to be a knockout battle. I think this is going to be probably one of those back and forths because I don't see many 3-and-outs, but I see a lot of punting going on in this game back and forth. It's going to be a defensive
Yeah, this is going to be
battle.
one of those games where I think the punters and the special teams is going to come in real handy. Real handy.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I see it, man. Washington 17-14, man.
All right. And now the game that's going to conclude Wild Card Weekend on ESPN Monday Night Football. Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings going out west to take on Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams in SoFi Stadium.
They might as well do that shit in the dome they did last night, man. Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, right?
Right?
That place was packed.
Dude, Steven, I wish you could have seen it, but the fucking drone footage was fucking phenomenal, man. They might as well do that in the NFL. Right before a fucking pass, throw a drone across the middle of the field, let that ball hit it.
Now, obviously, I'm going to go in and give my score here. Obviously, the only other loss that the Vikings have this year is to the Rams when they played Week 7. But I don't think lightning is going to strike twice for the Rams. I think the Vikings are going to do just enough to hang on. I think this is going to be their chance to turn around after that disappointing performance against Detroit. And I'm going to go with the Vikings in this one. I'm going to go Vikings over the Rams 20-16.
And before we give our picks, let me also ask this. If I'm not mistaken, if the Vikings beat the Rams, they go to Detroit.
You might be correct with that statement. But keep in mind, Detroit is going to face the lowest remaining seed. So So let's just say if Green Bay were to beat Philly,
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay's going to Detroit.
Yep.
If Washington becomes the lowest remaining seed, they'll go to Detroit.
Ah. Okay.
Mm,
Gotcha.
interesting.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, with that being said, it doesn't matter. I think the Vikings are going to find a way to get things back on track for at least a week because that's not a prototypical Vikings performance, like they had last week against the Lions. Because pretty much all season long, the Vikings have played really good football. I think Minnesota's going to give Rams. I think the Rams are going to give the Vikings a run for their money in this game. I do think the Vikings are going to make just enough plays to win this game. Give me Minnesota to beat the Rams. Give me the Vikings 23-20.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go against the grain again.
Ooh.
Whoa.
I think the Rams are gonna have a wake up call. And they probably had one sometime during the season going back and forth like they have. They looked like a team that was gonna do something. Then again, in
Mm-hmm.
weeks we saw them, they weren't really there.
Mm-hmm.
But I see the Rams winning this one with a game-winning field goal in the final seconds, 23-20.
Wow. Same score, opposite result. Wow.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
But guys, I got to get ready to roll because I start shift in about 5 minutes, man. It's been fun as always. Like I
Yep.
said,
Well,
Joseph,
hold
yo,
on before you log off, hijacker. I
what's
do
up?
want to ask you. I do want to ask you real quick. Me and Steve are going to talk about this. Actually, right now, since we're done with the pick segment. But if you were to pick right now your two teams to meet in the Super Bowl, who would you say?
Probably Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going against the grain on both of you.
Oh?
I have said it from the beginning of the season, and I am
Washington?
sticking with it.
Washington,
The
huh?
one matchup I want to see in the Super Bowl, Buffalo and Detroit.
Oh,
Sure.
that would be
I have said
intriguing.
it. I have said it. I have decreed it since the beginning of the season, and I am sticking with it. Buffalo and Detroit. That is the
That
matchup
would
I want to see in the Super Bowl.
that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
not only intriguing but amazing because if that were to happen, you are guaranteed one of those two teams to win their first Super Bowl.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah. Well, boys, I got to roll. Thank you again for
All right,
letting me join
hijacker.
this season.
Yep.
I
Great
will
job as
try to
always, man.
I will try to catch up with you guys next week if I can. You guys have a good rest of the show.
All
And
right, and of
it's been
course,
a
I will
fun
send
year.
you my address as soon as we get off the air.
Most definitely, brother. You guys enjoy the rest of the show. Have a good
Yep.
one, and I'll catch up with y'all soon.
Yep.
All right, hijacker. Peace out, bro.
All right, guys. Later.
Later. Yeah, I was just thinking this too. Since we haven't even given our top 5 moments of the year for last year, do you want to wait to do that again next week instead?
Well, I actually have my list.
Oh, you do? Perfect.
I do.
I do as well.
I have my list. I'm gonna make this obviously short and sweet. I do have my top 5 sports moments of 2024, but I also have a honorable mention.
Okay.
My honorable mention is back in the Summer Olympics when the USA men took home the gold medal in basketball
Okay.
in that very close game with host country France.
Okay.
Number 5. All I have to say is 3 words, and you'll get where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Finish the story.
Ooh, putting Cody Rhodes' win against Roman.
Cody Rhodes beating Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 40 to finish his story. That is my number 5 moment. Number 4. finally, ever since the Lakers won their Mickey Mouse championship bubble, finally, Boston was able to break the tie. Boston now stands alone at 18 NBA championships, and that is my number 4 moment. Boston winning their 18th NBA championship.
Mickey Mouse ring. Ridiculous. Oof.
Number 3, the storyline surrounding the Stanley Cup Finals. The Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. The Panthers winning the first 3 games to go up 3-0, but then Edmonton coming out of nowhere and winning the next 3 games to force a Game 7 winner-take-all, which was won by the Florida Panthers. So that whole story regarding the Stanley Cup Finals is my number 3 moment. My number 2 moment, and this is kind of a bittersweet moment, I might say, because my number 2 moment is the man who has ruled tennis courts over the past several years, most notably the clay courts at the French Open, has finally called it a career. The one and only Rafael Nadal, 22 Grand Slam victories on the tennis courts, with most of those coming on the French Open clay surface, has called it a career. And Rafa Nadal has been and will always continue to be one of the best modern day tennis players in the entire world. And I wish him the best of luck as he enjoys his retirement.
Hell of a run. Hell of a career.
And finally, my number 1 moment. It was hard to pick just one moment to stand out at number 1. So I took several moments that happened throughout the season and put them all together to make my one moment.
Okay.
My number 1 moment is the offseason that my Washington Commanders had, because we finished 4-13 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of the worst records that Washington has ever had as a franchise. So Dan Snyder finally sold the team. Thankfully, finally sold the team. We hired a brand new coach. We got, in my opinion, the best college player in the draft with, of course, JD5, Jane Daniels. We picked up some very notable defenders, most notably Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, and of course our linebacker Bobby Wagner. And going out each week this past season and proving that Washington is on the rise, going 12-5, winning at least 12 games for the first time since we won 14 games back in 1991, which was the same year that we won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, with the new ownership, the new head coach, the amazing draft pick, the off-season additions, and our play throughout the season, the Washington Commanders off-season is my number 1 sports moment.
For me, it's really hard to say because 24 produced some of the greatest moments in, not just moments, but also games as well. I mean, I would say for honorable mentions for me, I would say Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
That was such a well placed move by Henry. It was a stunning move in my opinion because did not picture him going to Baltimore, but I knew by him going there, he was going to help that team win, and he did. Had a great season with Baltimore in his first year with the Ravens. I would also say my other honorable mention is, like you said, with the USA men's team winning the gold medal. That was incredible. And also Nadal retiring as one of the greatest tennis players to ever play on the tennis court. Now, as far as my top 5 moments, I would say again, like you said, when you're number 5, I would have to say Cody. Cody winning the belt because like just that moment alone, like even though you could sense it was coming, but when it happened, that emotion of Samantha Irvin's famous announcement of Cody winning the belt, crying, bawling, openly weeping in front of the entire world, letting her emotions out, how she was feeling, how all of us were feeling. And I said after Cody won that night, when professional wrestling is done right, it's beautiful. It's amazing. And that was an amazing, amazing moment. I would say my number 4 would have to be the storyline, like you said, with the Florida Panthers and Vancouver. That was crazy. That was crazy. The fact that the Panthers were this close to winning the Stanley Cup by taking them out that quickly, then they lost 3 consecutive games and had to win Game 7. Now, as far as my top 3, this is where it gets intriguing because I would have to say, as far as a couple of games off the top of my head, I would say that I can't even sequence these two into single games because they were both competitive. So I'm going to group them as one. The 2 games that Baltimore and Cincinnati had this past year. My number 2 moment, without a doubt, was the greatest Thursday night football game played this year. The Lions and the Packers in Detroit. That was a hell of a game. Both teams came out firing on all cylinders. Both played great competitive games. They both didn't hardly turn the ball over. And they both made plays when it matters the most. And Detroit, in the end, came out on top when they won against Green Bay on a game-winning field goal. And my number 1 moment for the year of 2024, it is the Boston Celtics winning their 18th world title. Because as a long-time Celtic fan, becoming a fan during when they were winning the championship in 2008, and I still have stuck with this team.
Ooh, excuse me.
Bless you. I have stuck with this team for the longest of times, throughout the good times and the bad times. And to finally witness another Celtic team winning the world title, it was amazing to witness that because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown silenced their critics. And they, beyond a shadow of a doubt, have etched their greatness in the Celtic history. Because Kevin Garnett said years ago when the Celtics won the title in 2008 that I have embraced the culture, what it means to be a Celtic. And he did. Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce, for them to be there in attendance for the Celtics winning the championship, for Bob Cousy to be there. To do that for Bill Russell, one of the greatest champions in basketball history. To witness this team conquer the demons And I stand corrected. I had the wrong Canada team on the Stanley Cup. Edmonton, the Oilers and the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Very competitive series and crazy story, like you said. Um, but back to the Celtics. I mean, just this entire team. Drew Holiday was the key piece to this team on how they were going to, orchestrate. Al Horford, for him to finally win a championship as a Celtic. Kristaps Porzingis. It was a ballsy move by Brad Stevenson and company to do that, to get Porzingis, who has not been healthy at all times. But when he was there for the Celtics during their run last year, he was critical during down the stretch of the playoffs or in the finals, especially the finals. He wasn't there predominantly for the whole playoff run because he was injured. But the fact that Kristaps Porzingis and the role players, whether it be, um, was Peyton Pritchard with those crazy half court threes that he would hit at times, flipping the game. Obviously, Derek White being a great player on defense for the Celtics. Just this entire team, they play for one another. And to witness a team win a championship like that, you can't get much better than that. And I know for you, being a Braves fan when they won in 2021 against the Astros, that was very fulfilling as well.
Oh yeah, it really was. Now, I really hate to cut this off, but my laptop is telling me that I have 10 minutes left on 8% battery. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to go in and get my final thoughts so I can get on out of here and plug my laptop up.
Alrighty.
Great show as always. Hate that we couldn't have Ezra and Kevin join us this year or tonight for our first show of 2025. But as we mentioned and as we've talked about, NFL playoffs starting up this week. So check your local listings and enjoy the sports throughout the rest of the week and weekend. And also, if you are going to be in the North Carolina area this weekend,
Stay warm.
please be careful because we have got some winter weather coming this way and it might make roads a little hard to drive on. So please be careful.
Exactly. And again, congratulations, my brother, on becoming the new winner of joining the club of winning the 2024 prediction battles.
Yes, and
Our
I'm already looking forward to next year.
Our third straight winner. Three of us on this show have won at least one of these.
Yep.
This is a lot of fun. Looking forward to doing this once again next year.
Yep, but until then, peace out.
Later, brother. Yep. Again, it was so hard to pick some of these games, and congratulations to once again to our new prediction battles champion, the one, the only JT Joey Thornton, our brother from another mother. And again, it was so hard to pick, one, of some of these games because I could have gone a couple of other games, to be as my moments. I could have picked the Eagles and Washington game, and at one point that was on my list. But the more I thought about it, yeah, you got to even account wrestling into this too because that was a top moment. Cody finishing his story. And obviously on the sports side of things, you had the Dodgers winning the World Series against the Yankees. You had, like I said, the Panthers beating the Edmonton Oilers in a very wacky, wild Stanley Cup finals that went all over the place. Just when you thought Florida was going to win the Stanley Cup, in a blowout, Edmonton, give them credit, Edmonton came back and made it a series. And Florida, they had to squeak it out, but they did. So, but congratulations to the Florida Panthers on winning their very first Stanley Cup championship in the NHL. And also, wouldn't be reminisce being a proud American. Congratulations to our United States basketball team this past year, winning the gold medal in that crazy game against France when Stephen Curry went off in that game for the United States of America to clinch U.S. another gold medal. in the books for them. And again, as a long-time Celtic fan, this was just chef's kiss. To finally witness a team that you've loved, for a long time, for 17 years, to finally witness a team winning an NBA championship or any team that you're a fan of. When you witness your team, this is your team. This is your fandom. When just going into that series against the Mavericks, like nobody had the Celtics winning that series in the media. They're like, oh, Mavericks in 7, Mavericks in 6, blah, 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 blah. And the Celtics went out there and they played team basketball. They played great defense, took out Luka, took out Kyrie, and just an incredible, incredible team effort last year for the Celtics, winning the NBA championship. And they are the defending champions right now in the NBA. And obviously, like I mentioned, those Baltimore and Cincinnati games were insane. Insane. In freaking sane. Both great games. Could not pick one single game over the other because both games were just as crazy. And our very own Kevin on this show said that Cincinnati and Baltimore, I forget what week it was, but Kevin did say during that week, I think it might have been like about week. It was towards the beginning halfway mark of the season. I know that. But anyways, those two games that they had were insane. And then Detroit, Green Bay, could not think of a better football game to be my favorite game of the season. And obviously, like Joey and I picked, we both picked Cody Rhodes winning the world title against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Just an incredible, incredible moment for all of us wrestling fans. And being a wrestling fan for nearly 20 years myself, for 19 years, crying happy tears and witnessing Cody win that belt last year at home. It was just an incredible moment that I'll never forget as a longtime fan of this sport, a longtime fan of professional wrestling. And when professional wrestling is done right, it's damn beautiful. It's amazing. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. Again, folks, you can follow us on Twitter or X at Owen_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, where we are live on most Tuesday nights. Sometimes we have to flex out the scheduling due to scheduling, having to move the show to other days. But no matter what, we will bring you content. And we are looking forward to another great year of bringing you round-to-round coverage of the world of sports. And hopefully this year we'll get Lance Meadow back on at some point during the show. Maybe we'll try to get Urinating Tree on to do an interview with us at some point. Maybe we'll reach out to some reporters and do some interviews down the line as well. But looking forward to another great year with hosting with my brothers, Ezra, Kevin, Joey, Mike, Randy, and William Gyron. Randy and William Gyron Randy when he comes on from time to time, and especially with his cat Sprocket. It's awesome. It's awesome. To everybody out there that has supported us for the last now going on 4 years, thank you very much. We look forward to another great year of covering the world of sports, and looking forward to this weekend, as not only is the NFL playoffs beginning, but the college football semifinals get underway. And who would have thought that the teams that had the four teams that had the byes and the conference champions of each conference are gone. Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State are the final four that will play this weekend. And whoever wins these respective games will be moving on to face each other in the final game to crown the national champion of 2024-25. It's been a very interesting, at times non-competitive college football playoff tournament. The tournament idea has been cool, but a lot of these games, let's be honest, minus that Texas and Arizona State game, A lot of these games have not been competitive. I mean, Oregon got their shit kicked in by Ohio State. Wasn't even competitive. Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame beat Georgia, the game was kind of close, but Georgia, the Bulldogs, they were making a lot of mental mistakes that got them to a national title a couple of years ago. So it's very intriguing that the teams that had the buys are gone. Boise State, Arizona State, Georgia, and Oregon are all gone. All gone. So it will be interesting to see what happens as we move into Thursday into Friday as we do begin those two games. Obviously, the Notre Dame and Penn State game kicks off the festivities on Thursday, and then on Friday it is Texas and Ohio State. That to me is probably the game to watch the most because this is kind of a home game for Texas. And they needed overtime last week to beat Arizona State in a very interesting game because at one point the Texas was up 24-8, 24-8, and they let that lead slip away. And Arizona State got to give them credit, got to give the football team program for fighting back, and getting back into the series or not series. What the hell am I talking about? Getting back into the game, and Arizona State, to me, in my opinion, and like me and my buddy Bo and I talked about, they got screwed on that penalty that should have been called on Texas. Just not good. I think in my opinion, I think Arizona State got screwed, but that's that. There's really nothing you can do about it. But yeah, Texas needed overtime to beat, or excuse me, needed double overtime to beat Arizona State, and they did. They won in double overtime. Just a very wacky game by these two teams. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the semifinals as they start on Thursday with Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, take on Penn State. And then Friday, like I said, Texas versus the Ohio State University Buckeyes. So again, I think for the time being, real quick, I do want to bring up Raw from last night. My freaking God. And I alluded to it at the top of the hour when we started the show. What an incredible show last night, predominantly. And in my opinion, when The Rock came out there last night, that was not The Rock really in character. That was Dwayne Johnson. That was the corporate leader. That was the TKO board of, board of operator executive coming down to the ring and speaking to the Netflix, viewers for the first time, and to the to the people that work at Netflix, the producers and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna jump down, their throats saying that that they didn't progress storylines. I mean, folks, we have a long way to go until we're at WrestleMania. We're just barely on the road to the Royal Rumble. We're just, John Cena coming out. That was great. His promo, his declaration, that was amazing. It's going to be a hell of a ride for John Cena this year. He has declared himself to be in the Royal Rumble, so that'll be very interesting to see what happens when we get to the Rumble. Will he win it? Who knows? I'm making a prediction that I think John Cena is going to draw in the Royal Rumble at number 1. Number 1 will be John Cena. Now, as far as the rest of the show, I thought Roman and Solo, for what it was, thought it was really good. Tribal Combat. Roman went over. He is back to being the original, the only tribal chief, the Ulafala of his bloodline. It was very well done by all, and The Rock coming out and instilling the Ulafala on Roman was interesting. And people were thinking, Rock should have turned, should have done this, done that. Guys, what do you want him to do? Give away everything in 1 week? We have a long road until we get to the Royal Rumble and when we get to WrestleMania. Because again, for those that aren't keeping up, WrestleMania is not until April 19th and April 20th. We got a long stretch to we're even on the road to WrestleMania. You can't give away everything in 1 week. I think we're pretty much back to episodic wrestling next week for WWE. This was a showcase. This was a feel-good show for WWE last night on Netflix. And I thought it was a really good show. I loved Rhea not only winning the belt, but The Undertaker coming out and putting her over. Guys, for those that don't know, when American Badass hit the PA, I lost my mind. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. It was, I was going crazy. I was going crazy. It was awesome. And Undertaker did not have to say a single word, do a single move. He just showed his gratitude. He showed his respect from one badass to another in Rhea Ripley. That was awesome. That was awesome. And CM Punk. Now, before I get to CM Punk, Drew and Jay, it was all right. It was what it was. It was all right. Wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was Hulk Hogan being out there in front of the audience last night. I get it. He's promoting his beer, brother, but that doesn't work for me, dude. Like, ugh. Hulk Hogan did not need to be out there last night. That was not good. And I'm not surprised that Hulk Hogan got booed out the building. I am not surprised at all. At all. It was crazy. It was crazy last night. That crowd turned on a dime on Hogan. Not surprised. Not surprised. And then we get to the main event. Rollins versus Punk. That was fantastic. Fantastic. CM Punk has been back with the WWE for 14 months. And CM Punk has done one hell of a job since returning from AEW to WWE. And oh my, had the tables have turned. Because Punk, in my opinion, is where he belongs in WWE. And it was a very overall, from top to bottom, a very well-paced show last night. And getting you ready for what's in store. Because not just the show last night, but also what was great is that opening promo, that opening video package of narrating by Triple H, showing moments of not just the WWF/WWE, but showing moments of professional wrestling. From Gorgeous George to Hogan and Andre at Mania 3, to Shawn Michaels winning the WWF title, to now Cody Rhodes winning the world title against Roman last year at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Triple H's narration was unbelievable. Gave me goosebumps. The first time that I heard his narration on Twitter when the video came out. This felt like a bigger show. This felt like a pay-per-view last night. Overall, can't complain. For the most part, thought it was an outstanding show. Well done by Triple H and company. Well done by WWE. That place last night was unbelievable. The energy in that building was loud. It was loud. And for those that bought tickets to be at that show, you are the luckiest people that have a crap ton of money to go to events like this. Because this was unbelievable. Congratulations to WWE. and what they accomplished last night, having their very first Raw, their very first broadcast live in front of the entire world on Netflix. The game, as we all know it, is about to change when it comes to how we view WWE content for the foreseeable future down the road. Because Netflix, I think, once the Peacock deal with their PLEs goes out, once the USA deal for SmackDown runs out, everything will run on Netflix. And oh, by the way, for those that did not watch, the feed was fine. Did not have any buffering issues during that shitty Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. It was fine. It was fine. It was A-okay. Also, what was cool, and thank God, they did not censor The Rock when he said bullshit and when the fans were chanting chants such as fuck you Solo to Solo Sikoa during the Tribal Combat match, and obviously holy shit, etc., etc., etc. So again, this is what I was expecting it to be, and then some. Netflix last night, overall, WWE hit a home run last night. And also, I did catch some of the press conference from last night, and John Cena was spectacular. Spectacular. And it is going to be an interesting ride of a lifetime on where we head for the Royal Rumble next month on February 1st, and where we end up on the road to WrestleMania in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. And again, for those tuning in late, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. For those tuning in as this happened live, like our brother Mongrovian Mike, shout outs to him. My top 5 moments, again, Cody Rhodes winning the WWE Championship against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. Number 4, the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers in a wild, wacky, insane Stanley Cup Finals that went the full 7 games. Number 3, the 2 games that Baltimore and Cincinnati had against one another. Number 2 was the Packers and the Lions Thursday night game in Detroit. And number 1, my Boston Celtics winning the NBA championship. Thank you, Boston, for not only breaking the Lakers' record of tying 17 championships and going to number 18, but thank you for wiping away that Mickey Mouse title that the Lakers won back in 2020 as the title that tied the Celtics. Because honestly, at this point, that title win shouldn't even count for the Lakers. I'm just saying. It was the Mickey Mouse ring. Whoop-de freaking do. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think that does it for me. I figure I'll give you my thoughts on Raw last night. All of that good stuff. And again, if you want to hear more about this, tune into the Nation's Corner on Saturday as the guys and gal recap the world of professional wrestling. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be talking about this historic event last night in the WWE as the WWE made their debut globally on Netflix in front of the entire world watching live. Be very interested to see what the numbers are, but I know it's going to be huge for WWE because they have broken so many records in the last couple of years since Triple H has taken full creative of WWE. He's done a hell of a job, and I'm all strapped in, buckled up, ready for the ride, everybody. And again, congratulations to our brand new Prediction Battles champion for 2024, the one, the only JT Joey Thornton. Congratulations, man. Hell of a win, hell of a battle this year, but most importantly, it was done for fun. Because we don't do this to say I'm better than you, I got one up on you, whatever. No. We do this because we love doing what we do. Doing this is a lot of fun. We are blessed to be doing this. We love doing what we do. We love coming on here, popping on these microphones and these cameras and all of that good stuff and talking about the NFL, the NBA, etc., etc., etc. Looking forward to another great year of covering the world of sports wall to wall. Again, like I said, we're going to try to get some more interviews down the line, maybe pre-tape some of these because I know some of these guys' schedules are very hectic and stuff. But we're going to try to bring more content to you guys this year on the channel. Not just live content, but also pre-recorded stuff as well. Looking forward to another great year covering the world of sports. Happy New Year, everybody. From myself, Stephen Wyand, JT Joey Thornton, K-Rock, Kevin Roy, Ezra Vickery, Randy Gyron, William Gyron, Hijacker Mike, and everybody out there on the sports team. And to all of you, the viewers out there that are watching this live as it happens, and the ones that watch it on demand, thank you very much as well for tuning in. And thank you for those supporting us for the last 4 years. And we look forward to another great year of covering the world of sports. So, with that being said, we will see you next week as we recap the first round of the NFL playoffs, Super Wild Card Weekend. Strap on, everybody. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a hell of a ride. It might be a little bit bumpy, but enjoy the ride while you can because the NFL playoffs will pass you by in the blink of an eye, just like that. So, with that being said, for K-Rock, Kevin Roy, JT, our brand new champion of the prediction battles contest, JT Joey Thornton, Hijacker Mike, Ezra Vickery, Randy Gyron, William Gyron, and oh, Randy's cat, Sprocket. I have been your host for this evening on this first edition of our Nation Sports Show for the year 2025. Stephen Wyand signing out. And we will see you next week, same time, same day, same YouTube by God channel. This has been the first edition of our Nation Sports Show for the year 2025. Take care of yourselves. And like Joey said, if you are in the North Carolina state region, stay warm. Be careful because winter is literally coming this way. And for those that are wrestling fans, you get that reference. You're welcome. And with that being said, this has been another great edition of our Nation Sports Show, and we will see you next week for another edition of our Nation Sports Show. Take care of yourselves. Peace.